Welcome back to another week of Instigating with Clarkey and Drury. Ryan Drury here alongside Clarkey. Very pleased to be joined by another great special guest, longtime Toronto sports anchor. You'll remember him, of course, from his days at CFTO. He is now the host of Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show, available on YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Tilley. Joe, how are you, my friend?
I'm awesome, Ryan. Good to be here, my friend. It's great. Thank you.
It's great to have you, man. Like I said, I mean, people, especially around the Toronto region, will remember you and recognize that iconic voice. Tell us a little bit about what you're up to now. We know you got the Great Canadian Sports Show. Tell us a little bit about that and what you're up to these days.
Well, I got the sports show. We are spending the winter in Mexico, which is pretty cool because the show being what it is, we can be anywhere. So, when Boreas Salming was alive, we did the show. We interviewed him from Stockholm, right? So we can be anywhere. You know, the world has changed, as you know, and so it's great to be able to spend our winters here and our summers in Stouffville. And life is pretty good, I must say. And then the show we do once a week, so it's not too taxing. I mean, I end up having a lot of authors on the show. Like, for example, this week we've got Mike Keenan and Scott Morrison. So I had to read Mike's book, Iron Mike. It's a great book, by the way. You want to give that book a plug. And it's we're going to have them on Friday. And I've got another couple of books that I'm reading. So, you know, I get to spend a little time here reading by the pool and, catching up.
Tough life.
Reading and then doing the show once a week. So it's cool. Yeah.
That's good. And I saw you had my old buddy Bob McCowan on your show recently.
Yeah, it was great, man. The Bobcat was terrific. I mean, you know, he had a stroke, so he doesn't sound quite the same, and things have changed a little bit in his life, but it changed his focus a little bit, and the way he looks at things, I think, a little bit. But he's still in many ways the same old Bobcat. It was good to catch up, and we had some fun video that we looked at of his career and everything. So it was pretty cool. Yeah.
Joe, when you look back on your career, I mean, you've talked to a lot of significant people specifically around the Toronto sports scene, if you will. I mean, you mentioned Boreas Salming, who everybody loved. And I know that you got to talk to a lot of other great people around the GTA in terms of sports. Who comes to mind, you know, when you think back on your illustrious career in terms of guys that you really enjoyed sitting down and having conversations with?
Well, I mean, it was such a thrill for me when I was early in my career at CFTO, and I got a chance to do a sit down with Wayne Gretzky when he was in town. And, you know, I was a budding sportscaster from Edmonton, is where I grew up. And my heroes were Al McCann, who you guys would know, but he would be like the Edmonton version of Pat Marsden. And when I was in 1984, 84, I was working in the spring of 84, I was working at CFCN TV in Lethbridge. And I happened to be in Edmonton the weekend of Game 5 of the Stanley Cup final with the Islanders. And I called Bill Tuelli, the Oilers PR guy, and told him I was in town and asked me if it'd be possible to get a press pass. And he said, yeah, no problem. So he got me a press pass, and I went to pick it up, and I grabbed the pass, and I looked, oh my God, I'm in the press box, but I've got all access. And so after the game, which they won, of course, and won their first Stanley Cup, I got a chance to be out in the ice, and I got a chance to be in the dressing room, and it was unbelievable, that experience, being in the dressing room and getting a chance to drink champagne out of the Stanley Cup. Actually, me and a couple other reporters, we poured some beers into the cup, and we were drinking them, and back then I drank a lot. And Randy Gregg walked up and he says, hey, what are you guys doing? He poured the beer out and he poured champagne in. There you go. Now you can enjoy it. But it was quite a rush to be there for that. And, so interviewing Wayne was pretty cool for that Cub reporter in Toronto. But, being in Toronto, you get to talk to everybody. And I got to meet a lot of great celebrities, like Sugar Ray Leonard was my hero. And, being a former boxer as well, it was kind of a big deal for me. And, and then, doing my show I got a chance to cover a lot of boxing events. I was in, Lennox Lewis for his first title defense. I was in Vegas for that. I got a chance to go with Mike Tyson in his comeback fight. I got a chance to watch Ray and Donnie Lawn fight for the light heavyweight title in Vegas, and those are big highlights for me, no doubt about that. And yeah, like I said, interviewing Ray and interviewing Tyson and interviewing Lennox and having Lennox on my show was great. So yeah, it was really good.
Joe, where and when did the nickname Joe the Swiss come about?
Okay, so when I was early in my career, remember Jimmy the Greek?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Okay, so Jimmy the Greek had his picks, and I started doing picks for
Okay.
originally it was CFL picks, and I was doing my weekly CFL picks when I was living in Lethbridge, and so I would go through and I would make picks on the upcoming CFL games on the weekend, and I wasn't Joe the Swiss, I was Joe the Swiss as opposed to Jimmy the Greek, because my real last name is Tilley.
Huh.
Tillapaughh is a Swiss name,
Okay.
and we actually have a 2-volume uh, uh, family tree of somewhere. It's called the Dolan box in America. And when these people came from Switzerland in the 1700s, they came to most of the U.S. and they when they got off the boat, they were asked what their name was, and they would tell them, and whoever's doing immigration that day would spell it a different way. So Dallenbach, Tillapa, Dillaba, Dalaba, all these different names are all variations of the same name. So Wally Dallenbach, the stock car driver, would be the same name as Tillapa, but it's a derivative.
Huh.
It's just changed over the years from when they would document the immigration. And if you date us back, we go back to William Tell, the guy who shot the apple off his
Yeah.
head.
Wow.
Which is child abuse, by the way. I would never.
Absolutely. Well,
I'm sure it is.
I want to ask you, because obviously being around the Toronto sports scene for as long as you were, and with the World Series on tap, we're recording this the day before Game 1, which I have no idea why Major League Baseball made us wait this long, but
Yeah.
Here we are. Before we dig into this World Series matchup and how significant it is with all the star power on the field, take me back to your days, talking about the Blue Jays and covering a much different franchise back in the early 90s than what we're being treated to now, Joe. Like, what's your overall impression of where this franchise is at currently? Because the fan base, I don't know, and Clarkey, you guys would know a lot better than me, being a little older than me. I don't know that the fan base has ever been this upset heading into an offseason. Joe, what's your impression of things?
Well, I guess when Jimmy Williams got another kick at the can, people were a little bit upset, but he only lasted whatever it was, 25, 30 games into the season, and Cito took over, and the rest was history. But I can't remember the fan base being this upset about any moves that the club has made. Yeah, like we all expected, Ross Atkins to get his walking papers. Everybody expected that. Like, I mean, how can you have a team that's this terrible offensively, and you knew what your problem was? After last season, prior to last season, they decided they're going to upgrade defensively, and this will be a strong team defensively, and they'll have decent pitching, but it's a team that can win. Defense wins championships. But not when the following year they found out they couldn't win, so they needed to revamp the team. They needed to add some offense, and they didn't do it. I mean, they tried to land Shohei Ohtani, and apparently they tried valiantly for that, and we're pretty close from what I understand. But when you don't get the guy, you got to have a fallback plan, and they just didn't. I mean, that's a pathetic offense. It was just awful. And they just couldn't keep up with any of the big boys, and then when you lose Bo Bichette, to injury, and then when he does play, he's not the same Bo Bichette we saw before. I mean, if Bo Bichette was healthy and the Bo Bichette of the previous year, probably the Jays would have been in contention. Maybe not playoff team, but closer. As it was, they weren't. When you fail to build the team the way you need to build the team, you need to add the offense, and you don't add any offense, Like clearly I mean, from the beginning of the season, I think most of us were thinking that this is not enough. This is not enough. They got to do something else. Who's the 39-year-old guy they got from Boston? The free
Justin
agent?
Turner.
Justin Turner. Justin Turner is your big offseason acquisition, like who's Methuselah's brother, and he was okay at times, but really, there's just nothing there. The front office didn't do what they needed to do. They dropped the ball completely. They've gotten progressively worse over the last few years. To me, that it's an indication that they really needed to. I would have swept the whole works out. I mean, in a perfect world, I would sweep the whole works out and hire Alex Anthopoulos. That's what I would do.
Yeah, they had him.
And they had him, they had him, but he got chased out of town by Atkins and Shapiro. So, they had him, and they couldn't keep him. And look what he's doing now. So.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you obviously had your time with Bell and Rogers, if I'm not mistaken.
No, just Bell.
Just Bell. Okay.
Just Bell,
but obviously the Jays being owned by Rogers now, they just seem out of touch. Not that owners should listen to the fans, but as Ryan said, it's universal. It's like, how can they continue to do this? People have to stop going to games before things change, I think.
Well, and you're right. And they will. This isn't the Maple Leafs. I remember in 2003 or somewhere around that era, you could get Blue Jays tickets with your groceries at A&P. They were looking for, I guess that would be A&P would be now Metro. You could, with your purchase of $20 or more or whatever, you could get Blue Jay tickets. They couldn't put anybody in the seats. They're having a terrible time. It was awful. And that time will come again. That time will come again if this is the way they continue. And it's not the Maple Leafs where you got a full house every night, no matter what you do.
Right.
You could basically send out a bunch of circus monkeys to go out there and play hockey, and you'd still have a full house. But
which they did.
Which
they did that
in the 80s. In the 80s,
in the Ballard years, they did that.
Exactly.
Like, who can we get? Who's cheapest? And let's put them out there, and they'll fill a building.
Yeah, I remember, in those mid 2000s years too, like you'd go in there and there'd be like 14,000 people. I mean, you could hear your own conversation echoing off the top of the dome. It was ridiculous. And I think that will happen again. And I wonder, I get the impression sometimes, and Clarkey and I have been hammering on this since the press conference that they had at the end of this season. I don't get the impression, it's like you said, Clarkey, that ownership seems out of touch. It's not that they don't necessarily care. I mean, they have the fourth highest payroll in baseball. They're clearly willing to spend money, and old Eddie Raj was perfectly happy, allegedly spending $700 million on Shohei, which didn't materialize. But they're out of touch with what needs to happen to make that money be spent effectively. And I just don't know how they can go forward with these two guys with a fourth highest payroll, a terrible record, a bottom 10 offense, and a bottom 10 farm system. Like, there's no elite young talent on the way here, Joe. It's a disaster.
Well, the whole idea behind the fire sale at the end of the season was they're going to stockpile the minor leagues and have some potential in the system, but it's not there. It's just not enough anyway. Mm-hmm. And so even that, I mean, there were a lot of people who gave them praise for the amount of prospects they were able to acquire for those players. But you know what? I don't think it's that much. And prospects are a dime a dozen. Look how many prospects have not panned out. We've seen come through the Jays organization. I mean, they're not good players until they're good players at the major league level. And you're always taking a chance on that. But I mean, I don't know what they do. Maybe it's somehow, some way in this offseason they're going to blow us out of the water and bring in Soto and a bunch of other guys or whatever, and it'll be all fun and games. But I don't know. I don't see that.
I'm not holding my breath.
No, right?
I'm not either. And Joe, you bring up the guy, and this is a good transition to start talking about the World Series, and that's Juan Soto. I think, especially after the performance that he put in the ALCS, that I don't think that this guy is going anywhere. And they had Steinbrenner down on the field after the game and asked him about him, and he said he looks like success to me. Like they're paying this guy. And I guess my first part of the question is, we just saw Shohei break a lot of barriers and get $700 million. Now he pitches as well. Didn't this year, but he will continue pitching. He said it the other day. It's his intent to pitch next year in some capacity. So the $700 million is almost for, a dual threat that's so unique. But when you look at a guy like Juan Soto and what he does, when he was still in Washington, there were rumors that they were offering him upwards of $350 million to stay there. Already won them a World Series, didn't end up taking it. What kind of price tag do you foresee for this guy? Because the rumor is that him and his agent want to, quote, set the bar for the next generation of players. What do you foresee this guy getting? Is it 500? Is it 600 million? I think it lands somewhere in there.
Well, it'd have to be. Yeah, I would think you'd be close to that, 500 for sure. Because even though Shohei pitches as well, so he's a unique talent that way. Soto's offense is incredible, and defensively he's okay too. But his offense is it's going to earn him the cake. And that statement that we want to set the bar is just a way for them to say we're going to ask for a lot of money and we're going to get it. Because they are, and the Yankees are going to give it to them because they would be stupid not to. Because you see, they understand the game. They have the revenue. They have they have the fan base that understands that the Yankees are here to win. We know that the Yankees are here to win, and whenever they've taken steps back away from that, it's hurt them. It's hurt them in jersey sales. It's hurt them everywhere. And, listen, they have a lot of money to deal with. They have a lot of money to play with. And it's really only money for the Steinbrenners anyway. Who cares? And they can afford to give him that. And if it sets a new bar, so be it. That's the way they operate. So, for the Jays to be in that kind of a conversation, they would have to, I don't know what they'd have to come up with, but they'd have to do something, and they'd have to hope that Soto is not particularly happy for whatever reason in the Bronx. So, that's what they would have to hope would be the case. And if that were the case, well, then, maybe they have a shot. But otherwise, if it comes down to a money contest with the Yankees, who wins that, right?
Yeah. Well, we know the Jays had a lot of money to offer Ohtani. The problem is, money's a lot, obviously.
Well, they got to sign Guerrero, right?
Right. They have to do that as well. But the end of the day, what else did they tell them? We're not one player away here, right?
Right.
They're not.
If they want to win, they have a lot of work to do. And I don't know. I think it's a pipe dream he's coming to Toronto. That's for sure.
Yeah, I guess it would be. But, it's I guess, I don't know. The name was floated out there somehow, some way. So I guess, the idea being that, hey, we're willing to do whatever it takes, and we're going to spend our money wisely, which they always say, but we're willing to spend it if we need to spend it, but we will spend it wisely, and I don't know what that entails, and like some people thought it would have been a bad idea for them to sign Ohtani. No, there's no way, man. You would. That would have been such an incredible coup for them if they could have done that. And who knows? Yeah. Maybe they'd be facing the Dodgers or another team in the World Series right now if they did.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Or they would have been just like the Anaheim Angels.
Right.
Well, yeah.
Right. True.
Right.
Yeah.
You never know.
But he seems to be a better player now. I don't know.
Oh, dude, did he ever have an unbelievable season? And he's going to go toe-to-toe with a guy who had an incredible offensive season as well, and Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, of course. When you look at this World Series, Joe, we've seen a lot of great matchups over the years, of course, many of them back in the day involving the Yankees. These two teams are going to meet, I believe it's I believe it's the first time they're meeting in the World Series since 1961, and they've had old school battles back in the day. Two incredible marquee franchises. When you look at the star power on both sides here, we haven't seen a World Series quite like this in a long time, where you've got literally the elite of the elite on both sides. Ohtani, Teoscar Hernandez, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, and they're staring down Aaron Judge and Soto and Garrett Cole. I mean, like, it's an incredible matchup here. As you look at it, which direction are you leaning here? I think I might give the Yankees a slight favoritism because of their pitching and their health in the pitching department. Where are you leaning here?
Where does Joe the Swiss lean?
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what? I just think the Dodgers. I just think there's something magical about this season, and it seems like a fitting end for a team that did everything they possibly could to build a championship, including, of course, signing Ohtani. And it just seems like it fits, like how things kind of just fit. They just kind of work out. I believe they are slightly favored too, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that the Dodgers seem to have that the magic on their side, and Ohtani, and when you watch what Teoscar does and saying hello to Hazel May when in the interviews, he didn't want to leave Toronto, man. He did not want to leave Toronto, and he probably would go back in a heartbeat too. But it's like
he has too much fun for Toronto.
There's these are your baseball, the baseball wizards running your Blue Jays. They didn't think Teoscar Hernandez was a valuable asset.
Exactly.
What the hell's wrong with you?
Exactly.
Oh.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And I think most people are probably cheering for the Dodgers, especially in Toronto. No one likes to see the Yankees do well. The Dodgers are one of those teams where, they've managed to overcome, injuries to Tyler Glasnow. Walker Buehler just came back. Jack Flaherty's been doing his thing. Dustin May's hurt, though. Like, they have a lot of injuries with their starting pitching. Their bullpen, though, is so good. The Yankees has been performing well as well. I think I'd give the slight edge to the Dodgers in terms of their top to bottom lineup. But the Yankees are going to, give them problems here. I do wonder, too, you mentioned magical and referencing Ohtani. Like, we've been gushing over this guy since he arrived in Major League Baseball. And Joe, like, do you share the opinion that he's the most talented baseball player of all time? Because, like, look, we've seen a lot of great players in this game. Barry Bonds, DiMaggio, like, go down the list. I call me recency bias. Like, I think just the different stuff this guy can do, I think he might be the most talented player in pro sports.
Right. Yeah, I think so. I think today he's probably the best athlete on the planet, and he hasn't pitched in a couple of years, right? So next year, I think next year he's planning to be back on the mound, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. So next year he's planning to be back on the mound. So throw that into the mix, and it's like there's nobody comes close. But even just this year, in terms of offensive talent, he's done something nobody else has done. Hit 40 homers and steal 40 bases. And then he adds 10 more to that number. He goes 50-50, right? Nobody's ever done 40-40. He goes 50-50. Like, he's otherworldly. Nobody's ever even been in anywhere near his shoes in terms of what he's done, for this team offensively. And, what he continues to do in the playoffs. And, he's got some, pretty timely hits so far in the playoffs, and he got him going there in that first series, and he's something else, no doubt about it. He's incredible.
He's a freak. Clarkey, did you see that his 50-50 ball that he hit in Miami, it just auctioned for $4.3 million? I think it's the most
stole
expensive.
It, right? Didn't you guys steal it from a guy? But there was a lawsuit anyway.
There's a lawsuit between 3 different guys claiming that they caught the ball. It's a mess, but it just auctioned for $4.32 million. I believe it's the most expensive piece of memorabilia sold by that auction group. It's insane. It's incredible. That guy is just such a freak. He's so much fun to watch. Clarkey, go ahead.
No, I wanted to change the topic if that's okay.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Are you able to watch my Maple Leafs down there in Mexico, Joe?
Of course.
Keeping tabs? Okay, good. What do you think of the early season so far?
Well, I tell you, I was so on fire when they played that game against Tampa. A complete game. I mean, man, it's like Robertson's flying all. They didn't get a goal until the next game, which unfortunately they lost.
We don't want to talk about that.
If you look at that game and just what happened, and Tanev, oh my, blocking everything and clearing the front of the net, and it just defensively they looked super, and of course, they keep rolling those lines out and dickering at them here and there, but it's. There's just a lot of talent on that team, and Stallers between the pipes looks really, really good. The Hildebeest struggled a little bit in the next game, but if you got Stallers and Wall, as your tandem, providing Wall can stay healthy, that's a big if. But and I think that's a really strong team, a bit better defensively than we've seen in a long time. It's like. Morgan Riley was your cream of the crop, right, for the last number of years, and now he's probably, I think, maybe number 3 in my list of Leaf defensemen, maybe 4. I might put McCabe ahead of him. It's OEL and Chris Tanev and then maybe McCabe and then maybe Riley. So I mean that's defense depth we've never seen before. So,
yeah. It's a lot better defensively for sure. And Riley still, he definitely provides that skating ability and that offensive burst that they need every now and again. And he's had a pretty okay start to the season in terms of his stats. That's the thing though. And that's why I made the little face when Clarkey asked about what you think about the early part of the season here. As we record this, 4-3 record, they're going to play St. Louis, which is Craig Berube's old team, on the night we're recording this. And I'm very interested to see A, if Wall plays, which is the rumor, and B, he's not going to play. Clarkey,
I don't think he's going to. I haven't, but I heard he's
the
not
rumor.
playing.
The rumor was that he had an outside chance of starting. So I'm interested to see if he does. And I'm also interested to see how they bounce back from yet again another, as our friend Steve Dangle put it, Clarkey, another leafy performance. It's the most leafy thing ever. They play.
They have to get their head over. They have to get over this. They have to. They could have finished close to first place last year if they had to beat the bottom dwellers all season. And they can't. They've lost to Montreal, now Columbus this year. They cannot continue to do that. No doubt. No doubt.
And Joe, they do this all the time. Like they crush a great team in Tampa with one of the most complete. Clarkey, you and I watched that game together. They played lights out from whistle one to the final horn. And then they go to Columbus, not a long trip. No. And they looked horrific. I laughed at Austin Matthews' quote after the game. He said the neutral zone was like the Autobahn for them tonight. Well, you play in the middle of the ice. I was like, what? Excuse me? Like, Joe, when you watch this team over the last number of years under this regime, under this core, like, God, it's just so frustrating to watch them do stuff like this.
Well, and we did believe that with a new voice, a new face, and behind the bench, that a guy who runs things a little bit differently, that he might be able to light a fire under their butts in situations like that, so they don't have those down games, especially like you can't go into Columbus thinking you're going to roll over the team, because they're still. There's a team that is really being inspired by the loss of Goudreau, right? And that whole thing around it. And it's like, and you got guys like Justin Danforth, who's from Oshawa, like he's from the Toronto area, being a Leafs fan all his life, and wants to play he had a career night. So you always get that situation where you get players rising to the occasion against the Leafs. It does happen, but they, I'm thinking, if you have Wall or Stollers in net instead of the Hildebeest in that game, they probably have a rough first period and maybe give up a goal or two. But they come back in the second, they could get themselves back in the game, and then in the third, it's a different situation because you're taking chances in the third period in that game that you wouldn't normally be taking. So it changes your style of play, it changes the way you look at the game, and I'm sure it changes the way that Berube coaches. So, I just think that was just a, kind of a mirage. We're not going to see that frequently, hopefully. And I think that's the kind of thing that can happen where you're just not, just have an off period, give up 3 goals. It's awful. And you're just behind the 8 ball. You can't ever catch up, just not going to catch up. And, and then you got guys playing out of their minds on the other side. And that's just the way it was. So I think there's a lot of factors that led to that game. It wasn't just the Leafs being idiots. I think there's a lot of factors there. And I think the true test will come tonight. And if I'm Berube, I'm starting Stallers, right?
Yeah.
First start against my former team. Are you kidding me?
Oh yeah, and I think he is because I think they would have pulled. I think they might have pulled Hildebeest on Tuesday night. Yeah, but they didn't want to put Stallers in there because I think he's going tonight. So
it's second and back to back. You need to give him a rest. And so for sure. So he got his rest, and now he'll come back against St. Louis and. Yeah, I would think you'd see a better version, right?
Before we let you go, give us the Joe the Swiss picks for Stanley Cup final and Grey Cup final.
Well, I think what I think BC's going to come around. I think it's taken them a while to get the Canadian kid Rourke for Grey Cup. It's taken them a while to get Rourke going, but I think he will. And I think they'll upset the Bombers in the Western Final. And I think the Argos are going to upset Montreal. They just beat them recently, and I think they'll probably do that again. And again, Chad Kelly is incredible. And so you'll have the best 2 quarterbacks in the league going at it. And probably like a 27-21 Argo victory.
A 1983 rematch, right?
Yes.
Joe Barnes throwing to Cedric Minter.
Right. Conrad Holloway had to leave that game or something.
Yeah, and I was a big Conrad fan. Yeah, he did. And Stanley Cup?
For Stanley Cup, okay, so I think the Leafs are the real deal this year. I really do. Okay. I think the Leafs can make it all the way to the Stanley Cup, and it would be nice if the Oilers could do it too, but there seems to be something missing there. I mean, if you looked at what happened early in last season, you say, well, yeah, that's just what the Oilers do. They started awful, and then they changed coaches, but they're not going to do that again. But I think, there's a couple of pretty strong looking teams. Like Colorado's really dropped off the map, but Dallas looks really, really good. Mm-hmm. I think Dallas could be a team to, and Winnipeg, man, they've been
good start,
fantastic too. And Vancouver, geez, so it'd be one of those 3 teams. So at least coming out of the East, and Vancouver or Winnipeg or Dallas out of the West. But I'm going to go Dallas. Leafs in Dallas.
Nice.
And, Leafs in 7.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Clip that. Yeah. Producer Adam, clip that.
Clip that.
And we'll get Joe back on after.
Wouldn't that be something, Clarkey? I don't even want to hear your prediction. Give me Dallas Rangers. Dallas win in 6.
Oh, get out of here. Rangers. Yep. Hey, the best thing.
Better goalie.
To me, not the best thing about living in Mexico. Good, not the weather, not the beaches, not the golf course. You get to watch hockey games at 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Well, it's 2 hours difference here. So,
it's only 2 hours?
Yeah. So the Leafs game starts at 5 tonight. So 5:30, I think.
That's still nice, though.
5:30. The broadcast starts at 5:30, so the game starts 6.
Okay.
But, so it's okay. But and you know what? When you guys fall back, we don't. So then you're just an hour off.
Really? It's so far, and it's only an hour off.
It's an hour off, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's not like when I was...
It wasn't as exciting as I thought.
Well, when I was growing up, we'd watch the NFL on Sunday afternoon starting at 11 o'clock.
Right.
There you go.
Sunday morning, I should say.
Yeah. All right.
Good stuff. Well, Joe, we really appreciate your time. Everybody, make sure you check out Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show. It's available on YouTube. Very easy to find, just like this show. Give Joe a plug here. Give him some views. We would really appreciate it. Joe, thank you so much for doing this, my friend.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Clarkey. Good to see you guys, and appreciate being on. It was fun. Thank you. Anytime.
Absolutely. All right. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, Clarkey and I are going to dig a little more into the Maple Leafs and the World Series. And, of course, we're going to toss out our couch potatoes of the week. That's next on Instigating. Welcome back to Instigating with Clarkey and Drury. Thanks to our friend Joe Tilley, longtime Toronto sports anchor. You remember him from CFTO. And of course, check out his great show on YouTube, Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show. Ryan Drury back here with Clarkey. And Clarkey, we dug into it a little bit with him. Had some thoughts about the Blue Jays and, what they continue to do with their analytical guru nonsense. And, talked a little World Series. It's going to be a good one, man. The World Series this year is, it's going to be a real treat. And I think that Rob Manfred and everybody, they would never admit it, but this was their dream matchup. I mean, the Dodgers and Yankees, all the star power out there. And I think ultimately, and, my boss, Scott Kitching, be damned. I'm sorry, Scott. I think everybody outside of Yankees fans would love to see Shohei Ohtani win a World Series after languishing for that brutal Angels franchise, man. It would be pretty special if a player like him won a World Series.
Yeah, I agree. I'm pulling for the Dodgers for sure. I hate the Yankees, so I don't want them to win anything.
Well, Teoscar's there too.
Teoscar's great. And it would just be great. It would even rub it in a little bit more.
I know.
Shatkins. Right?
Yes. And I like it would be great. It would make them look even dumber than they already do. Although I don't know that Jays fans care anymore because we're stuck with these guys. And I mean, unless Eddie tunes in and watches and says, you know what? We had that guy.
Eddie is out of touch.
He must be.
I think he's down in Mexico with Joe.
Joe, get this guy on the links and get in his ear here. Jesus, I'll do the job for a quarter of what these guys are doing it for God's sake. I just am blown away, and I don't understand why. Look, I've said it 100 times, they got to call Theo Epstein and just be like, Theo, we'll do anything.
Well, they're not calling anybody, man. These guys are coming back for another season. They're not calling anybody.
God,
we're going to go into. Can you imagine if this team goes into next season with the same basic roster and can't add anybody? It's not going to be easy to add anybody.
They probably will, though. That's the thing, right? Or they'll sign some ancient guy, right? And be like,
another Justin Turner.
He's going to be a good veteran presence in our locker room. Talent. Just not enough talent on this team. I don't care about veteran presences. No. Kevin Gausman's a veteran. He needs to be better. Chris Bassett's a veteran. He needs to be better. All the whining he did this year. I love Seabass, but my God, that was getting embarrassing by the end. He is right, though. They need more help from the lineup. And these guys are such an embarrassment to professional sports. And it's a disgrace that a great fan base like the Blue Jays fan base has to put up with garbage like this. And on that note, boy, Toronto fans put up with an awful lot of that because, that performance in Columbus, Clarkey, like I said to Joe, we sat there.
To just harp on this, don't you?
They're a joke.
You just love it. You just love it.
They're a joke, Clarkey. And this is
why
what
are they
do.
A joke? They had a bad game.
Because this is what they
Every team has a bad game, dude.
But not like the Leafs.
Team.
Not like the Leafs.
Say that. That is totally not true. That's totally not true.
No one does it. No one self-immolates like the Toronto Maple Leafs. You like that word? Nobody sets themselves on fire like the Toronto Maple Leafs do. Magicians don't set themselves on fire as much as the Maple Leafs do. David Blaine hasn't been on fire as much as the Maple Leafs have been, because this is what they do. They love taking nights off. All these guys making $8 bajillion take a night off.
The key is to bounce back.
A lot of it bounce back and maybe actually win something of significance. I don't know. We'll see. But again, that's what's so annoying about this team from an outsider's perspective is I just don't care until April. It's embarrassing, and they'll continue to pile up embarrassing losses.
Why don't we talk about the game against Tampa?
They'll lose 9-2 to the Utah Hockey Club.
And you don't like that, do you?
It is fun. Dude, look, okay, I'll entertain you. I'll indulge you.
You're Mr. Negative. You're Mr. Half
I think it might have been one of the best regular season games, if not potentially the best regular season game I've ever seen that group play.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good enough for you? Is that good? I thought that they were so good from puck drop. William, what did I say to you leaving my house? Do you remember what I said about William Nylander?
Leaving my house?
Yeah. You graciously hosted me there. No, you didn't remember. You were kind of busy. You were being grandpa that night. But I specifically said, I think that might be the best game William Nylander's ever played in the NHL.
Yeah.
I thought he was unreal. Chris Tanev was a freak. Joe Tilley brought him up.
Tanev, yeah, he is. And as I said to you that night, I had no idea how good Oliver Ekman-Larsson is. He is believable. He really is good. And like that reverse check, like George Peros has got to get over this Leaf.
I'm not doing this. I told you at the start of the year.
Dude, I'm telling you, how can he get fined for that? How can he get fined for it? George Peros, like, just stop picking on the Leafs, because there's no doubt, if there's any conspiracy out there, he hates the Maple Leafs. He picks on the Leafs any chance he gets. Jacob Trouba shoulders a guy in the head and knocks him out, and he doesn't even get anything. Nothing.
That's what you said. Just quickly, you said conspiracy, and it made me think, you know what we should do? We should start making t-shirts that have Mark Shapiro's face on them and they say, this is a Shapiracy. That's what we should start doing. We should start selling those.
We may be able to make some money until he sues us.
Quick side note. You can't sue us. I'm not going to comment on that, because I made you a promise at the start of this year that I was not going to comment on George Peros' decision.
It's just a matter of time. You will.
I will say this, like, what is your opinion? Because, like, the reverse hit thing has been a hot topic whenever it comes up. Like, Ray Ferraro's been very vocal about it. He says it should be a penalty every single time because it's technically interference. Because in order to legally body check somebody, they have to have the puck, or they have to have just had it.
But if you're standing still and just shift your body and a guy's running at you,
I guess that is the question to be had here. Like, should it be a play? Now, what I will say, and some people did point this out, is that a lot of times when you see a guy lay a reverse hit, and the one I remember best was in the Stanley Cup final, TJ Oshie laid one. I can't remember who it was on Vegas that he did it to, but it didn't get called, and they scored right after. He did it, but he had the puck. And some people did point out that as Ekman-Larsson, I believe it was Gensel, came together, Ekman-Larsson never touched the puck. So generally, when you see it happen,
the puck. He had the puck.
Well, he wasn't protecting the puck because he didn't have it.
He was protecting him from getting to the puck.
But you're not allowed to get in a guy's way. That is interference. You can't impede a guy's way.
I guess, but it's certainly not a fine.
I do wonder if he had made it to the puck, put it on his tape, and did that, if it would have been anything. And I won't comment any further than that, because I'm not commenting about George Peros.
Right.
I can't do it. The man is a psychopath. Anyway, he spins a wheel. He must.
I think he must. I think you're absolutely right. You're right. What did you think of the Trouba hit?
As far as I'm willing to go. What did I think? Sorry, what?
The Trouba hit. What did you think?
Again, one of those hits that's just so on the line, and it wouldn't be getting any attention if it wasn't him or Tom Wilson or somebody that does this stuff. Like, you know, I like
if Wilson did the same thing, what would have happened?
Oh,
the exact same hit.
He would have been suspended.
Right.
He would have been suspended, because they would have said. Now, it looked, again, like people sharing these still shots. You got to quit doing that, because you look dumb. You look stupid to me, and I consider myself a sensible fan.
Yeah.
Sharing still shots when you're a fan and going, look what they did to our guy in this still image, it makes you look stupid. And I saw it in real time and went, wow, that was a really hard hit. And it kind of looked like he got him in the head. And that's why I think, and again, I'm not naming anybody who's an NHL employee here in this conspiracy.
Good.
But if you asked me,
if
my boy of 5 goals, by the way, Tommy Wilson, if Tommy Wilson laid that hit, 400 game suspension. I'm not joking. Jacob Trouba gets away with more borderline hits than almost any player I've seen over the last 10 years.
I agree.
I'm not joking.
I totally agree.
I think it was a clean hit. Barely. but that barely means something different for other players, and that's what's not right. And what I would say too on the other side of it, and I know people don't like this, but I'm sorry. Justin Barron, it's a learning moment for you.
No doubt.
You have got to know who's on the ice, and you cannot come down Jacob Trouba's side and admire your pass as you cross the blue line. Did you watch Rock'em Sock'em growing up with all the Scott Stevens highlights? He's the closest thing in the league to Scott Stevens. You don't do that. Don't go over the line and admire your pass. Oh, my God, the guys, and people don't like when you say, hey, guys have got to take responsibility not only to lay good hits, but guys have also got to take their own safety into their hands sometimes. It's a contact sport, ladies and gentlemen. So, to have the argument of like, oh, well, you can't say that. Well, yes, I can, because until they ban hitting, this type of, you have to be aware that you're going to be hit. You can't expect to walk over a blue line and just go, oh, I'm fine here. No one's going to come near me. Guess what? You have the puck, and everybody on the other team wants it back, and they're going to hit you.
Yeah.
I just thought, and God love the kid. I think he's going to be a good little player. They love him in Montreal, but that's a learning moment for Justin Barron. I can promise you he's never going to do that again. And he's certainly going to have a look and go, number 8's out there, and I better be friggin' careful.
Yeah, or he will do it again, and he'll get rocked again. One or the other. How many times did Eric Lindros say, I'm never doing that again?
That's your option. That is your option. Mind you, Eric Lindros, like, that was the one bad time it happened to him, that initial Stevens one, and he was never the same after. Because it was usually him.
But he got hit a lot.
Doing it to other guys. Oh, yeah, he got hit a lot. Absolutely. He hit people a lot.
Oh, no doubt.
He had way worse hits than the Trouba one. Like, he used to just go into the corner and absolutely kill guys. In the OHL, he was on nemesis. Like, dude, imagine being a 17-year-old kid and going into the corner with like 19-year-old Eric Lindros. Are you joking? Anyway, I thought it was a clean hit, but you asked, if Tom Wilson leaves, he's suspended. I want we didn't ask Joe to predict it. What is your sense of the World Series? I think it's ultimately going to be, I think the Dodgers can win it in 6, but that bullpen better get it done for them.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, when you look at the Yankee roster, it's pretty daunting. It just has a lot of big bats, right? I'm not saying the Dodgers don't. I know they do. They do, but geez, I think it's going to be a classic. I really hope so, and I do too. That's why Major League Baseball waited till Friday night to start this thing, because they get 2 Friday and Saturdays if it goes 7, and then
that's why they did it.
The big rating monsters on days would be a Friday and a Saturday night. So that's why they did it. There's no doubt. Sure. I mean, the funny thing is, like, when Joe Carter's anniversary was yesterday, October 23rd, 1992.
Yeah. Touch them all.
Touch them all, Joe. So that was over at that point. But they win it in 5 or 6?
6, I believe, against Philly.
So the World Series was over at that point. Now it hasn't even started. So they're probably going to go into November. It's just crazy how late these seasons go now. They get it stretched out. So next Friday would be November 1st. So anyway, I think the Dodgers are going to win in 7. It's going to go the distance. It's going to be a classic.
That'd be incredible. That would be absolutely incredible. Yeah, it'll be interesting for sure, man. And I'm struggling to think of a World Series matchup like this in my lifetime, where you have literally like the biggest of the biggest of the biggest stars. You don't get this very often in sports.
No, you don't.
Like quite clearly the 2 best rosters, because it's often not the 2 best rosters on paper that people look at at the beginning of a year and go, that's clearly the best team. That makes it 2 of them.
Right.
Maybe one of them, but 2 of them, man, it's a storyline, dude. This is
for sure.
This is an incredible thing, and I genuinely wonder what Juan Soto's going to get. I think he might get like $600 million, dude. I think he might get like $600 million.
Well, I heard Steve Phillips on TSN.
Worth every penny.
saying he's hearing the number starts with a 7.
I'd have a hard time arguing it. The only thing I would say though is just like I just don't think he's worth as much as Ohtani.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If it was like 670, 680, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense.
What was Ohtani's again? Refresh my
700 even.
Right on. Yeah.
700 even.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, you look at some of his metrics as a hitter. I mean, like I saw a nuts stat the other day that before they're 20, because he isn't 26 yet.
Right.
He has over 730 walks before his 26th birthday, which is no one else in baseball history has more than 700. I think the guy in second, I can't remember who it was, off the top of my head, had like 670 or something. Like the guy, in terms of getting on base,
mm-hmm.
the guy is a shoo-in to be on base all of the time. And then you factor in the fact that he can move out there. He's a decent defender. I would call him a plus defender in right field. And his bat, like the pop he has is, and he can spray it all over the field. He is more of a pull hitter, but he can spray it all over the field, and he's a lefty bat. Like he is a freak, dude. He is an absolute freak.
Yeah.
Let's move into our couch potatoes. I generally let you go first, and I would love to do that again if you've got something ready for me here.
Yeah, I do. And congratulations are in order. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Because the Yankees and Dodgers are playing in the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
But one player already has guaranteed himself a ring. And that player is Taylor Trammell. Now, Major League Baseball gives everybody a ring who played on the team during the season. So Taylor Trammell started with the Mariners, was picked up by the Dodgers, played 5 games with the Dodgers, went to the Yankees, played 5 games with the Yankees. He is guaranteed a ring. So congratulations to Trammell. What are you laughing at? Was he yours?
This is not what I expected. This is
So congratulations. Like, can you imagine this guy?
Yes, your World Series
played for Scranton Wilkes-Barre, and he's just sitting back, and he's got a ring no matter what. It's going to have a Dodger logo on it, or it's going to have a Yankee logo on it. I don't know if I agree with it, but that's the rules in Major League Baseball. So he contributed to the team. He played in 7 games total this season. He played in 7 Major League games. It's 7 at-bats. He played in 10 games, had 7 at-bats.
Yeah,
and he's getting a World Series ring no matter who wins the World Series. So there you go.
I don't care that like the teams give rings out to guys, because I remember when we won, and there were a couple guys that didn't get engraved on the cup that the team gave a ring to. I'm fine with that, just as long as you're not on the plaque in the Hall of Fame, because you're not. That's a little much, right? Especially over 162 game season. You can't have 10 at bats and get on and go into Canton. Can't happen.
And Trammell says he's happy. He can't wait. He's going to watch to see what color ring he gets. So
absolutely, why not?
That's kind of cool, though, right?
It's nice
cool.
ring,
I don't think it's ever happened. That a guy's been guaranteed a ring no matter who won the World Series.
That's a good question.
Without playing, he's not on the team now. He's on the 40-man roster, but he's not playing.
Baseball's been around a long time. I'm sure it's probably happened before.
Maybe
we'd have to look that up for sure.
Yeah. So there you go. That's my couch potato of the week.
Taylor. I like that. Well, look, I've been known at times in my life to be a bit of a selfish guy, and so I want to do a selfish couch potato, if you don't mind. And it's an unexpected one, let me say. Look, everybody knows I was very happy when my boys finally did the thing. There's Big O, just a reminder. And last year I went in with 0 expectations for the Capitals, and they managed to squeeze into the playoffs. And this year, I would argue I went in with lower expectations. I was kind of like, they'll probably slide out of the playoffs. A lot more young guys, new faces, a lot of new faces coming in. I thought, maybe they'll be okay, but they'll probably miss the playoffs by a couple points. I didn't see this start coming. They lost their first game to New Jersey, and then they've won 5 straight. They're the hottest team going right now. It's unbelievable. Winnipeg's still undefeated. I can't believe it. They're the hottest team in the East, in the very least. Hotter than the Leafs. Self-immolating, eh? Unbelievable. And look at some of the teams they beat along the way. New Jersey, revenge game. Dallas, who I picked to go to the Cup final. Vegas, a Cup contender. It's been unbelievable. And then they waxed the Flyers in back-to-back nights. And so my couch potato is our head coach, Spencer Carberry, a guy that the Leafs let go. Thank you very much. Really love that. Spencer Carberry's just doing an incredible job putting in an early ticket for the Jack Adams, way too early. But I love Carbs, and also a guy that everybody made fun of me for my team acquiring in the offseason, Pierre-Luc Dubois. What a joke that the Capitals brought Pierre-Luc Dubois in. What a loser. Pierre-Luc Dubois, 5 points in 6 games. Thank you very much. Scored his first goal last night. Thank you. They're my couch potatoes, Spencer Carberry and Pierre-Luc Dubois. Thank you very much. Washington Capitals are 5-1.
I'm glad you did this after 6 games. That's all.
Yeah, I'm glad I am too, because I genuinely
jump on that
don't
after
care.
6 games.
I genuinely don't care how well they win, right? You know, they've won stuff. I've watched the core of that team actually win something. So they actually deserve praise in times like this, rather than a team that, you know, achieves less than nothing. So anyway, yeah, I'm glad I did it too. Selfish guy. And selfishly, I wanted to pump my team's tires a little bit. Who knows? In 2 weeks' time, maybe they're 5-13. I don't know. But
Never know. They could be 12-1.
Never know. They could be 12-1. Who knows? Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. You know what we do know, and you know this.
Yes, I do.
Because you watch the show, right? Okay. Friday nights at 8, Sunday
I watch it live
friends
when we record it.
Yes, you know this. I'm more speaking to the audience, but
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, no
Friday
problem.
nights at 8, Sunday nights at 9 with our friends. God, it's hard to find good help, folks. Friday nights at 8, Sunday nights at 9 with our friends on Whiteman TV. That's channel 6 for Whiteman subscribers. We debut on our YouTube channel Friday nights at 9. You can find the podcast version on all your favorite podcast apps, and follow us on social media and check out clips from the show at Instigating Pod on Twitter and Instagram. I still call it Twitter. I'm not conforming. And we really appreciate you watching the show, listening to the show. Thanks to our friend Joe Tilley. Check out his show, Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show. We will be back on this great show next week with more Instigating. See ya.